Welcome to Good Morning Transfers. Every day is going to be packed full of transfer news, and we're with you all the way until the window closes. What have the transfer team got for us today?
Yuri Tielemans is close to completing his move to Leicester City. Is this the year we see a club break that monopoly of the Big Six?
Paul Pogba has touched down in Australia, so very much right now he's a part of the pre-season plans, but we'll discuss his future at the club.
It's been a turbulent few weeks for Newcastle fans. Are there more departures on the way? We will have all the latest on the future of a number of your key players.
And Marco Arnautovic and West Ham's, shall we say, eventful relationship is coming to an end. But who are the winners and who are the losers? The Austrian is under our transfer spotlight.
Can you believe it? They've let us back on for another week. Ease yourself into Monday with us. Get involved, join the conversation, use the hashtag #TransferTalk.
We're going to start with Paul Pogba this morning. Let's just bring you up to date with the situation. He has been included in Manchester United's pre-season tour of Australia, Singapore and China, but there have been question marks surrounding his future because of his agent, Mino Raiola, declaring on Friday that they were, quote, in the process of facilitating a move away from the club. However, the midfielder has reported back to Carrington, that was yesterday, head of Manchester United's 18-day pre-season trip. OK, so, Michael Bridge, just tell us what the latest is in terms of the reports going around about what could happen with Paul Pogba.
Well, it was interesting, Tom. I was reading reports this morning in Spain saying that Real Madrid were encouraging Pogba to go on tour with Manchester United because they don't want to fall out with Manchester United. But looking at that, if you're going on a tour of Australia, could this be another long, drawn-out saga? What I would say about Paul Pogba at the moment, he's looking very sharp. He's posting a lot of Instagram videos. He's not as if, he's had probably a couple of weeks off to do whatever. But now he's back now. He's been training, videos of New York and wearing different kits. But yeah, it's surely not a player Man United want to lose.
No, not at all. And look, for me, I was a little bit wary when we knew we were going to have to talk about Paul Pogba today. And the Paul Pogba sort of debate is one of those things I think is kind of symptomatic of the problems in football and the attitude and the mentality around sort of players like Paul Pogba. To start with, Manchester United are going to be linked with dozens of players this summer. Not one of them is as good as an in-form Paul Pogba. I think we can pretty much all agree on that. When Manchester United were hot for that sort of 2.5-month period, Paul Pogba got 15 goal involvements in 11 games, and he was genuinely world class. And the players in the Premier League know that. They recognise that. That's why he was in the PFA Team of the Year. Look, the fact of the matter is, the lazy sort of argument against Paul Pogba is, oh, he's different, oh, his form's patchy, oh, he's an individual, oh, he lacks team ethic. But look, that's just fan tribalism and old-fashioned coaching attitude of, look, if you don't fit into this football club, get out and we'll find someone that does. It's 2019. Look, we should celebrate people that are different. We should celebrate people's individual traits. We should look to find a way to work with people who are different and that want to work in their creativity in a different way. In my opinion, Paul Pogba is kind of this enigmatic figure that kind of is slightly mismanaged. I'm not saying it's easy, and it's not saying it's the easy thing to do is sort of work with a player like that. But look, you've got a player here that is genuinely world class. Look at his CV. Yeah. This is a guy that that in form and engaged could push Manchester United up the table and potentially be a leader that Manchester United have been lacking for how long now? Look, it's a difficult thing to sit down and say, right, how do we get this guy that I can't necessarily connect with? But that's what a good leader does. It's what a good manager does in any walk of life. They work with difficult sort of individuals, and they find a way to engage with them. Why is football any different? It shouldn't be. And if they want, and this is what Manchester United need to solve.
But you talk about him being in form, and they need to start next season with Paul Pogba in form. He can't be flirting with leaving the club and openly telling the fans that he's wanting a move, because they need to start on the front foot, and they need to know where they're standing. So I think, yeah, you talk about Paul Pogba, he is a world-class player, but he's got to be in form. You saw when he wasn't really in it last season under Mourinho, and that didn't go down well at all. So they need to know where they stand for next season.
But he's got to be in form. It's the club, the management, the coaching staff have got to take some responsibility here. Surely, haven't they, Jody?
I've sat patiently. I've just tried to really take in what everybody's saying before I kind of voice my opinion on it because I'm kind of caught in two minds. From the personal standpoint, I really agree with what you say. Like, we look at other sports that we was talking about off camera, and an individual like Paul Pogba would be celebrated for being an individual and having the talent that he does, and he would be celebrated to the highest degree. And I feel like within football we do that sometimes, but then if you step outside of that boundary of the basic phenomenon of what a good footballer is, who doesn't look like he's working hard all the time and doesn't look so casual and laboured on the ball, then it's like when we're losing, you're not trying.
Yeah.
You're not this, you're not this, you're not that. And I don't really understand because statistically, if you look at Paul Pogba from midfield, he was Man United's best product last year. 13 goals, 9 assists. So you're talking about statistically he's turning up. On the worldwide scale, he is the biggest draw to attract world-class players to Manchester United. And that is, I'm talking about as a name, he is the biggest draw. He could bring any player in the world because of his name to Manchester United.
Yeah.
But I get the other side of it. And I do understand the other side of it because you look at him and you're thinking to yourself, well, why is your agent coming out and saying these things? You just had all of those young players sign those long-term contracts. Luke Shaw, Axel Tuanzebe, thank you very much, and Marcus Rashford. Like, you've seen everybody signing up their long-term careers at the club. So you be their leader and you lead them to where they need to be.
But I think it was really interesting with Daniel James and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Solskjaer, on both of those, said they've got the drive, they've got the passion, the determination, they know what it is to be a Manchester United player. Is he making a dig perhaps at those that aren't potentially feeling that right now?
Well, what we've been saying there, very positive about Paul Pogba. We've got some stats to back that up, actually, from last season, because if you look at this, straight away on that right-hand side, first for goals from Manchester United's midfielders last season, shots, assists, chances created, passes and touches, OK. So he with those touches and passes, clearly he has been involved in games, even though sometimes he's accused of not. However, on the other side of it, and I'll come to you here, Michael, right? Any agent will tell you, you know, if a player wants to move, that is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get that player to move. Now, his agent is saying that he wants to move. So if he does, should Manchester United just let him?
Well, similar to when Juventus, and he went from Juventus to Paul Pogba, isn't it? It's difficult, isn't it? When agents get involved, when brothers get involved. You just look at it. I'm looking at it from a Manchester United perspective. They've lost Ander Herrera to PSG. They lose their other senior central midfielder to Real Madrid, the biggest club in the world, looking to reinvent themselves. Why do they want Paul Pogba? To make themselves better, don't they? I'd be very worried. I looked at United's squad yesterday when they tweeted the squad list going to Australia. Granted, there are still some coming back from international duty. Totally understand that. But I still think, oh, cool, that really does need a lot of work. It would be extremely tough for Manchester United, for me, going into the new season without Herrera and Pogba in that midfield, unless Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has got options of bringing others in.
Well, we're talking about his agent there. That is Mino Raiola, and he's given us some quotes on Matthias de Ligt today as well, because he says, his agent, that he's agreed personal terms with Juventus. This is what he said. Matthias has agreed personal terms with Juve. We're waiting for them to complete the agreement with Ajax soon. That's what he told a Dutch newspaper. So just to explain that, what Mino Raiola is saying is that the club and the player have agreed, but they haven't agreed a fee with Ajax, all right, which isn't actually really supposed to happen. This is what Sky in Italy are reporting. The agreement is £10.8 million per year, OK, that's wages, which is about £230,000 per week. Ajax, what they want in terms of a transfer fee is £67.3 million, which is 75 million euros. Juve is so far offering £49.3 million with £9 million in bonuses, all right? They're not that far between, and negotiations continue. But what de Ligt's agent is saying is that the club and the club Juve and the player have agreed personal terms, but Juve and Ajax are still not quite on the same page.
Yes, that one could run. Let's bring you up to date with the state of play on some of the other deals today. Now, we understand Marko Arnautovic has completed his move from West Ham to Shanghai SIPG. That's a deal worth around £22.5 million. West Ham are in the process of trying to bring in a replacement. They have offered £45 million to Celta Vigo for striker Maxi Gomez. That's the price of the release clause in his contract, but it can't be triggered until that full amount is lodged at La Liga headquarters in Madrid. Salomon Rondon could be about to follow Rafa Benitez to China. Dalian Yifang are keen on the striker. He has a release clause, which could see him leave the Hawthorns for around £16 million. Huddersfield Town want to sign Everton's Kieran Dowell on loan. The midfielder spent last season on loan at Sheffield United and has also spent time at Nottingham Forest. And Reading midfielder Liam Kelly will have a medical in the Netherlands today as he nears a move to Feyenoord. It's an undisclosed fee. The player will also discuss personal terms today.
Right, Leicester fans, they're pretty happy at the moment, aren't they? They ended the season strongly under Brendan Rodgers. They've signed Iosi Perez, they've signed Justin James as well. It's been good transfer business so far, but there's one man that they really, really want to come back to the club, and that is Yuri Tielemans. Alice Piper, where does this one stand?
Well, obviously a very exciting time for Leicester fans right now. This one is very, very close. We hear he arrived in Leicester on Friday and he actually stayed in the apartment that he stayed in while he was on loan at the club. So obviously he was feeling fairly comfortable. And we believe that he had his medical over the weekend. So this is expected to be a club record £40 million for Tielemans. He obviously did really well for them last season. Brendan Rodgers made no secret of the fact he was a huge fan of the player. He wanted to come back to Leicester as well. So a real catch for the club. He excelled on loan there. I think 3 goals last season for them. So yeah, exciting times for Leicester fans, and it looks very close to being over the line.
Well, it sounds to me, Anton, at £40 million, that this is an absolute bargain, especially given that they already know what they're getting.
Yeah, they do know what they're getting, and you've got to think of the resale value as well. You know, he could potentially double his value in 12 months. Yeah.
Do you think he's already worth, well, a lot more than 40 anyway?
No, because Monaco would have charged more than 40. This is a player that's still. I mean, this is, remember, a player pretty much 12, 18 months ago was described as one of the biggest flops in French football by France Football Magazine.
What a turnaround!
Yeah, this one heck of a turnaround at Leicester. You know, he was really didn't work for him at Monaco, and there is always that worry, isn't there? When you pick up someone on loan, they're motivated, and they come in, and you're like, okay. They struggled to kick on a bit. It could just be really good form last season, and that's what he's got to prove over the next. I think he will, because what we saw last season was absolutely superb. The way he got involved in games in all facets, attacking and defending, was superb. But there is a question mark around him, and I think that's why the fee's £40 million.
It feels like a top 6 signing for me. I was really impressed with him last season, and I think Leicester, Brendan Rodgers, savvy, getting it done early because they know there was a few whispers from other clubs looking as well, being impressed. I want to look at some stats, Tom, actually. Just looking at his Premier League rank, comparing him to other Premier League players. If you look here, assists 3rd. Remember, he was only there from mid-Jan. Yeah. Big chances created 6th. This is Premier League, don't forget, not Leicester, Premier League. Through balls attempted 3rd. He'll have Iosi Perez and Jamie Vardy to do that for next season. Goals 22nd, shots on target 7th. I like this guy. I like him. I'm impressed. It's a good signing for Leicester City.
What league? Just to stress, this is Premier League.
Premier League.
I think personally, looking at the fee, looking at how a lot of the other midfielders in Europe are being valued, I think Leicester have done really well value for money. Yeah. I think if you really take it into perspective, this guy was monitored by Manchester United and Tottenham less than 6 months ago. Yeah. So you're talking about a highly touted prospect. And I know you're talking about his time at Monaco, but look at Monaco over the last 18 months.
Don't get me wrong.
That has to be the most dysfunctional football team, arguably, across the whole of Europe.
No, I get that. I completely get that. So, and he's a young man going to a club that was struggling behind the scenes. I get it.
He's 22 years old. He's part of that coveted Belgium setup, and he's been in that setup for 3-4 years now.
He's won domestic titles. He's played the World Cup. He's played in the Champions League. He's got everything you want for a player that age in terms of experience.
We're going to come back to Leicester because there's a lot more to say about them, but we've got some breaking news. Okay, this is Good Morning Transfers, so there's plenty going on, and Sky Sports News understands that Aston Villa have ended their pursuit of Jack Butland. However, we're told they're still in the market for a new goalkeeper in this window. Now, Stoke not prepared to budge from their valuation of £25 million, who has made it clear, though, that he does want to leave the club and return to the Premier League. But Stoke are just saying it's £25 million or you're staying. Now, Villa not prepared to go to £25 million, and other targets expected to take up the rest of Dean Smith's transfer budget. All right, we've got more here as well, because we're told that Bournemouth are still interested in Butland, but they also aren't prepared to pay that £25 million that Stoke wants. This is not good news for Jack Butland if he does indeed want to leave. Moving on with a bit more about Villa, Tyrone Mings is expected to be his move from Bournemouth today. The two clubs have agreed a fee that could rise to as much as £25 million, depending on Mings' success at Villa. We've also been told that Villa are interested in signing Egyptian midfielder Mahmoud Ahmed Ibrahim Hassan, who is known as, he's also known as Trezeguet, by the way. We'll find out a little bit more about him when we can, if this deal goes through. But Villa have been watching him. He's 24 years old, and he's at the Africa Cup of Nations, and negotiations are ongoing with his club, which is Kasim Passa. All right, so keep an eye on that. There's lots to take in there, but I particularly want to talk about Jack Butland. It seems like both definitely Aston Villa, and it seems like Bournemouth as well, are saying he is not worth £25 million. What do we think?
That's fair. This is a player that, you know, he's very talented, but hasn't played in the Premier League for a year.
Okay.
And when he was in the Premier League, was in a team that went down. And it's not a criticism of Jack Butland himself, but those are just the facts. The clubs are going to play hardball. You know, there are lots of goalkeepers out there. That brings the market down. And the fact of the matter is, you know, a lot of clubs might say, well, look, we'll pay a couple of million to take him on loan with an option to buy at the end of it. But obviously Stoke want that big fee. They want Jordan Pickford money for him, basically,
exactly.
because that's the level they see him, and that's the level that obviously Jack Butland sees himself as well. But the fact of the matter is, the market isn't there at the moment to get £25 million for Jack Butland when you can go out and get one of the many other goalkeepers who are available on the market.
Although I know we will talk Villa later, but it's very interesting that they've spent a certain amount of money on Matt Targett and Tyrone Mings as well. So it's interesting how they've perceived that. I'm surprised with the Bournemouth angle. Asmir Begovic, obviously our Bournemouth expert Mark McAdam will speak more on that possibly later. But yeah, that intrigues me, Tom.
What annoyed you, JD, there?
I just think in an inflated market where we hyperbole English values in terms of value for English players, I don't understand how England's number 2 is not worth 25 million.
Well, and he was touted to be the next, you know, Joe Hart's replacement before Pickford came onto the scene, wasn't he? So it'd be interesting to see kind of how Southgate deals with him potentially playing another season in the Championship. Because Southgate, I know about Jack Grealish, he was saying he needs to be in the Premier League for me to be, you know, considering him for selection. So you can understand why Butland wants to return to the Premier League. Villa, obviously, geographically not that far from Stoke, so you could have seen it happening. But yeah, interesting.